My name is Jesse Roach, and I'm the director of City of Santa Fe Water, and I'm here to answer a question many Santa Fans ask themselves as they drive around town and see new buildings going up. Do we have the water to support this growth? I'm here to explain why even in the midst of this unprecedented drought, the answer is yes. Santa Fe has 4 drinking water supplies that serve homes and businesses. The Canyon Road Water Treatment Plant and city wells provide water from our local watershed, which is outlined in blue on the map, while the Buckman wells and Buckman Direct Diversion provide water from other watersheds. In addition, our wastewater treatment plant provides reclaimed water to water parks and golf courses. This graphic and table show where our drinking water came from in 2021. More than half was diverted from the Rio Grande by the Buckman Direct Diversion, or BDD. Almost a quarter came from the Santa Fe River. We think of the river water as our checking account and our wells as our savings account. More on that later. But let's back up and see how we got here. The first act of this story goes from 1880 through 1995 and might be called Sustainability Lost. In this act, water demand grew exponentially, and the Sangre de Cristo Water Company developed 3 supplies to keep up. The Santa Fe River first, and then local and regional wells. By the end of this act, the wells were being overused. Act 2, which might be called Sustainability Found, started in 1995 when the city bought the water company. From that time until now, dramatic conservation has reduced our total water demand by 1/3, even while population served grew by 25%. This chart shows population served from 95 through 2020 in the blue bars and the total water use attributed to each person in purple. Thanks to residents and businesses that take saving water seriously, average water use per person has been cut almost in half in 25 years. The other key to finding sustainability was bringing the Buckman Direct Diversion, a second river-based water supply, online in 2011, shown in dark blue in the figure. Wells, which made up 65% of our water supply from 95 through 2010, have accounted for only 23% since. And we think of the groundwater in our aquifers as our savings account, with our wells as ATMs used for withdrawals. And now that we're using less groundwater than is naturally replenished, water levels in our wells are rising after decades of decline. We are rebuilding our backup supplies for when the river water is less available. This graph shows average water use for the past 8 years on the left, with river water in blue and well water in orange. On the right is the amount that we estimate has been sustainably available year in and year out in that same period. We have used about 3/4 of sustainable availability, and as a result, we're building up reserves. And that brings us to Act 3, the future. We're in good shape now, but what about climate change? Based on the best available science, we expect there will be 25 to 33% less water available to us by the end of this century than was available in the second half of the last century. And the question on many people's minds, what about growth? We are preparing for a future where by 2070, there are between 100 and 160,000 people served in city limits, shown by the blue lines in the graph, and an additional 60 to 90,000 people served by the county utility, shown in red. And what happens when you decrease supply and increase demand and don't make any other changes? You get shortages. The red shading in the graph represents the possible range of shortages in the future with high growth, while the blue shading shows the same for low growth. High growth and the worst case climate change projections could result in shortages as early as the next decade, but we are going to do something, or more accurately, many things. Our adaptation strategies to avoid shortages will continue to start with conservation, but we are turning our attention to more use of reclaimed water, and specifically the San Juan Chama Return Flow Project. Almost 2/3 of the potable water that is used in the city arrives at the Paseo Real Water Reclamation Facility near the airport for treatment. This volume of water is substantial and a focus in building resiliency in the face of climate change and a growing community. We plan to indirectly reuse a portion of this with the proposed San Juan Chama Return Flow Project. Our goal is to fully consume our San Juan Chama water, which is Colorado River water stored in reservoirs on the Chama and diverted at the Buckman Direct Diversion, or BDD. Currently, all city diversions of water at the BDD come from releases from those upstream reservoirs. With the San Juan Chama return flow project shown on the right, unconsumed San Juan Chama water that arrives at the wastewater treatment plant will be returned to the Rio Grande just below the BDD so that less water can be released from upstream reservoirs to make the same diversion at BDD without reducing Rio Grande flows downstream. The San Juan Chama return flow project will more than double our river-based supply. The third bar in the figure shows the increased supply with the return flow project, a sustainable supply that is more than double current demand. This project will create resiliency in the face of climate change and allow us to avoid shortages for decades to come. In the long run, we expect climate change to reduce supplies and growth to increase demands, as represented in the bar at the right. The uncertainty associated with long-term supply and demand means that even with the return flow project in place, we will continue to plan and adapt as conditions change and new information becomes available. We have begun a new round of science-based, public-informed long-range planning intended to give us an idea of what supply and demand will look like out as far as the year 2100 and what adaptation strategies should be considered to avoid shortages. We are currently focused on the demand projections shown in the second loop in the figure. Hopefully, I've been able to show that right now we do have water to support growth, and we also have a process in place to keep updating the answer to that question. But if you feel like you just drank from a fire hose and would like to try something slower, please visit our website at santafenm.gov/water